Hello my friends, I hope you're feeling great, and I also hope that you love bass drums, kick drums, however you call it, as much as I do. Because here's the thing, I assume you have a lot of bass drum samples in your libraries, and when you're looking for a certain one, you start, an endless search through all the sound banks, kind of hoping that the next one is finally what you have in mind. Or you are much better organized, I'm definitely not, and you know exactly where you can find your most favorite samples. Well, it's good for you, but then you quickly get bored by using the same samples over and over again. I have a better idea. Let me just take any bass drum sample and turn it into something cool by only applying common audio design techniques and without the need of one of my favorite phrases, fancy plugins. So this is for sound nerds and for interested beginners, of course. The DAW also doesn't matter, but what does matter is that you subscribe to the channel if you like my content. Because I'm on the road to 1 million subscribers, and it would be really great if we could make it happen this century. So let me see if I can find a nice bass drum sample. And by the way, do you say bass drum or is it kick drum for you? I'm old school and I'm a drummer as well. I've learned it's the bass drum, but it makes sense that it's also a kick drum, okay? So let me know in the comments, is it a kick drum for you or is it a bass drum? Here's a nice library in the media pool, and I think this one here is pretty nice for our experiment. Okay, so let's just drag it here into an empty area. Make it a little bit bigger so that you can see. And you see the sample is a bit too long for a quarter note. Let's go at first for a 4 on the floor beat. So I make it like this and fill the space here, set up a loop. Okay, no clicking. This can happen when you shorten an audio sample. So we can add a little fade out here, something like this. So this is our raw sample, and I just make a copy of this, a duplicate track, and mute the original here, so that we can see our progress step by step. And my first step is always to look at the equalizer, I don't need, like I've said in the beginning, I don't need any plugins right now. Just go with the equalizer that's here in the channel settings or in the channel strip. This one, I have a little low and high cut going on. Let's turn that off. Yeah. Kind of beefy sound. So I'll make it a little bit louder for you so that you can hear the problems with the sound or the character. Let's not talk about problems. Everything can be, sound is sound, okay? Sound is sound, basically. And it only matters what you're looking for and if it fits the track you're working on. So we have much bass, some heights, but also you hear a lot of the room, or maybe it's a piece of hardware, an acoustic drum set always makes sounds. When you hit the bass drum, everything makes sounds, like the other toms and also the cymbals and even the hardware. So maybe we can try to make this sample sound a little bit cleaner and tighter. So I think many people start playing around in the bass area here, in the lower area. I just ask why. Because you can see there is much bass going on already. What's missing, and I think it's a really cool tip if you're into rock music and even metal, this is essential. Look at the higher frequencies, like here, 2000K maybe. Let's start somewhere and see. Here you have a really sharp attack, and that's what makes a bass drum sound heavy. Let's go for equal numbers, and it's only 1.5K in this case, with this sample, with my taste. Okay, that's important. I only show you the way, some methods you can do to make your bass drum sound a little bit better. And like I always say, what's really good depends on the situation. It's totally up to you. So let's make an A-B comparison by bypassing the equalizer. It's off. Very nice. It's much heavier, much tighter. But now let's look for the, the ugly sounds. Maybe you can go to the extremes and try to find the frequencies that I find annoying. Okay, what about this? We still hear the noise, but not so bad, and also it sounds more like a real bass drum, but maybe we can bring back a little bit of the bass with maybe something like this. Let's go for 80 Hertz and this is like really tasty, all right? This is really a tasty sounding bass drum, in my opinion. Again, in my opinion, it's good for rock, for metal maybe, and also for everything else, because we will do much more with this sound, okay? This is just the first step, equalizing a little bit to shape it. But I think what I want to say is that it already sounds much better, in my opinion, than the original sample. And this shows you what you can do with a random sample. So let's make another copy of this, mute the old one. But how can we tweak the character of this bass drum sound to make it fit more into various music styles like singer-songwriter, rock, or even electronic music styles and hip-hop? Obviously you can use more filters, that's always a nice thing to do, but I don't want to talk about that right now. Instead I will show you 3 of my favorite things I always, more or less always try with my bass drum, and I'll show you right now. And the first thing is a chorus, a simple chorus effect, nothing special, and especially when your bass drum sounds a little bit thin in the mix, the chorus can be a good way to make it sound wider and also warmer. So let's play around. You know what I mean? And you can also overdo it to make crazy sound or something. That's not what we are going for right now. But anyway, it's possible. Why not? And one thing I really want to mention here, it's really important, I think. I often see it on YouTube, on other tutorials, that for an A and B comparison with a plugin, the people use this button here. And this means they switch on and off the whole plugin. That's totally unnecessary, and also it creates cracking sounds and something like that. No, for A-B comparisons, perfect to use the bypass effect here, the bypass functionality. You hear that? There's always something crazy going on, but not with the bypass. The next thing is, and now we go hard style, it's distortion, of course. Send your bass drum to all the Marshall amps you can find in your rehearsal room. It's cool, okay? Let's go with a distortion plugin, just a simple thing here, nothing special, you can use anything. Okay, you know what I mean? Cool. And if that's strong for you, you are too weak. Just to steal an advertisement slogan of these things here, my favorites. Okay, I get it, it's too extreme, okay? Then let's go with a simple tube distortion, like for a subtle change. And also it adds more heights to a sound, of course, in the mix, very cool to use. Very noisy, of course, but maybe that's the perfect thing in your track. So these two things are really cool, chorus and distortion. And the third one is, of course, reverb. You can use reverb on the bass drum, like in techno music and hardstyle techno music, to make a rumble going on in the background, you know, boom, boom, boom. But that's not what we're looking for right now, because we are looking for a kind of normal bass drum sound. So I've made another copy of our bass drum. Maybe we can make the old ones a little bit smaller, something like this. Okay, now we have one problem. This sample is still very long. Now we only have a 4 on the floor beat going on, so that's not a problem. But what when we want to use this bass drum sample in kind of a funky groove with 16th note syncopes or something? So we need to make it much shorter. Let me just try something. So this is a 16th note length, and I will try to create a cool sounding little groove. Bring back the quarter notes. Oh yeah, and then we make something like this and this. Okay. And here's the problem, of course. You hear that the sound is really cut off. Maybe that's not even a problem in a song, okay? So this sound kind of lost its belly, and to give it its belly back, we don't want to feed it with beer, no. We want to use a reverb. But before that, let me just make some changes. Dynamics, baby. So let's add a little bit of reverb. I use one of my favorite reverbs here in Cubase. Nothing special. It's Roomworks SE. I think it's a special edition or something, but it really doesn't matter much. Let me try to give our bass drum sound its belly back with a short reverb. Cool or cool? And one word about the pre-delay. It's important, I think, for at least for my taste with drum sounds, that I want to have a little pre-delay most of the time, or many times. It's you know, it's just a rule of thumb what we're talking about here. And let's crank it up here, and you will see we can even create a little like a groove. Okay. So how do you explain mixing in only one sentence? Let me know in the comments, because of course what we are doing here is just a part of the mixing process. We are looking into one single instrument, in this case the bass drum, and try to find out ways to make it sound really cool in the mix. But I describe mixing like looking for the sweet spot all of the time, then adding some taste and character after having all the levels and technical things right. So this was our original sample here. And then we equalized it. Then I demonstrated what you can do with the chorus. Distortion. Or subtle distortion. And then we created this funky pattern here. We shortened the sample to even less than 16th note and also added some dynamics. And because it was thin and cut off sounding, we've added a small reverb to it. So let's listen to it again. I will play the dry signal 2 bars and then I turn on the reverb. Okay, the next time you're working on a track and you're looking for a bass drum sound or kick drum sound, just take the first sample you can find and try to apply my tips and tricks here. And most importantly, let me know how it turned out for you. In the meantime, you can also watch these videos, and I also hope that you don't forget to leave a like.